Good evening and welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of your night to join us for tonight's public hearing. This is a public hearing for removal and replacement of lake aeration system in Sherman Lake, Ross Township, in Kalamazoo County. My name is Ryan Blazik. I'm with EGLE's Environmental Support Division. I'm just going to be your moderator for tonight's hearing. So I just have a couple things to go through before we get started, in case you haven't joined us for one of these hearings before. This is what our agenda looks like. We're going to start off with an introduction. That's what we're doing right now. And then a big thing to keep in mind is that there's two parts to the hearing tonight. We're starting off with an informational session where the applicant has an opportunity to present some information on the project they're proposing. And we'll follow that up with a question and answer session, so you have an opportunity to ask some questions. And we'll do that till about 6:30 at the latest. And then we're going to go through the other ways to submit official comment. And then the official hearing, which is the second part, part two, where everybody's going to have an opportunity to make a statement for the record on this application and project. And then we're also going to cover where to find other information, who to contact, in case you have any follow-up questions. All right. All lines are going to be muted during the hearing, so you'll be able to hear us, but we can't hear you. If you have any questions, we're going to have that question and answer session kind of at the end of the informational period. That'll be your opportunity, but you can type your questions in at any time using the Q&A box. You also have an opportunity to raise your hand during the Q&A session, but we'll talk about how we're going to do that later. And then we're also recording this hearing, just so you're aware. It'll be posted on our YouTube channel in a couple days, in case you'd like to watch it again or forward it on to someone else. All right, at this time, we're going to introduce the other folks, EGLE folks we have on our hearing tonight. So first off, is Derek. Derek, take it away.
Hey everybody, my name is Derek Carrollton. I'm the district supervisor for the Kalamazoo District Office. I'm going to be the hearings officer for the public hearing tonight, and I'm reviewing the application for permit.
All right, next up we have Rachel Kaufman.
Hi there, my name is Rachel Kaufman. I also work at the Kalamazoo office, and I'll be joining this hearing tonight as well.
All right, thank you, Rachel and Derek, for those introductions. We're going to move right into the informational session. So we're going to unmute the applicant's representatives, Nancy Boyd, John Tucci, and Dr. Jennifer Jamalowitz-Jones. You're going to be unmuted in the audience, and then I have your slides here. Are you all three there right now?
Yes.
All right, perfect. I have your slides. And so if you just want to let me know when to move on to the next slide, I'll change the slide for you. But you can go ahead and get started. You know, if you wouldn't mind taking around 10, 15 minutes or less, just to make sure we have some time for Q&A, that would be great.
Great. Thank you so much for providing me with this opportunity to speak. My name is Nancy Boyd, and I'm the current president of the Sherman Lake Residents Association, better known as the SLRA. I'm here today because the SLRA has applied for an aeration permit so that we can continue to aerate our lake. Why do we want to aerate our lake? Well, the primary reason for aeration is because it adds oxygen to the lake, and oxygen helps muck and dead organic matter decompose. We have a lot of muck and dead organic matter at the bottom of our lake. Our lake is kettle-shaped with no inlet or outlet, and residue from an influx of invasive species that we killed off in the early 2000s has accumulated. We used a lot of herbicides back then, so much so that the invasive weeds almost became immune. No one likes to put herbicides in the lake, but we had to, as the invasive Eurasian milfoil and curly-leaf pondweed tried to take over our ecosystem. That residue is the perfect place for these invasive weeds to continue to take root and multiply, so it makes sense to try to get rid of it. Aeration speeds up the decomposition of this residue, resulting in a harder, more pleasant lake bottom. What gives me the authority to make this application? The answer is the SLRA. I have unanimous support from the board. The SLRA is a democratically run nonprofit association, and all Sherman Lake residents and Sherman Lake SAD participants are encouraged to join. We're not a lake board. We are a lake association, and that gives us the right to manage our own projects and to choose our own vendors and professionals. And some of you don't believe me, but please contact an attorney to verify that. We've chosen to partner with Dr. Jennifer Jeremolowitz-Jones, owner and certified lake professional from Restorative Lake Sciences, to manage our lake. She's a well-respected limnologist who manages over 100 lakes throughout the Midwest. We have been very fortunate to have had her at our side for the past 16 years. She recommended whole lake aeration back in 2012, and we've been very pleased with the results. We've applied for this aeration permit based on her recommendation. We've also partnered with John Tucci from Everblue Lakes. John is a pioneer in the field of aeration. He helped us pilot an aeration project in our channel back in 2007 using much of his own money. Since then, Everblue Lakes has become a very successful aeration company, and his current pricing is extremely competitive. Our aeration project is funded through a special assessment district. The residents petitioned Ross Township to create our first SAD back in 2002. We have successfully petitioned for 3 additional SADs since then. The SAD provides the money that's required to manage our lake. It's not just for aeration. The SAD is administered by the township, which means that they collect the money from the residents, pay the bills, and conduct annual audits. Upon our recommendation, the township has contracted with Restorative Lake Sciences and Everblue Lakes. The township's legal counsel recognizes the office of the president of the SLRA as the point person. I work for free and democratically represent residents through the SLRA. That's how it works in America. Like any program, our aeration program is subject to changes over time, and when changes occur, the budget must change as well. Current philosophy regarding aeration is different than its philosophy when we first installed our system. EGLE no longer supports deep water aeration, and as a result,
There, Nancy? Did we lose Nancy? Is there, Derek? Can you hear me?
Yep, I'm not, yeah, the audio just cut out.
It sounds like we lost Nancy. I don't know if John or Jennifer, if you had something to present or wanted to take over for Nancy. I'm not sure what happened to her audio.
I think John
Yeah,
goes, and then I'll go after John.
Exactly.
Okay.
So next slide, please. I'm here to talk about the technical details of the plan. Next slide, please. So the document that you're about to see has detail that's been provided to the Sherman Lake Residents Association several months ago in preparation for this application. Executing this plan will essentially require the removal of the system that was located on the Y Camp property and the diffusers that were in that part of the lake, and a complete reconfiguring of the systems that were at Forest Beach and on the Sherman Lake Channel. Next slide, please. With this new plan, we're introducing another form of aeration technology called O2B2 aeration tubing. This equipment is designed specifically for better results in shallower water areas that are typically less than 5 to 6 feet deep. And so you'll see a combination of this technology along with the diffuser technology that has been used in the lake in the past. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So this is a depiction of the proposed design for the Forest Beach Bay or West Bay of Sherman Lake. That is the part of the lake that is the most impacted by organic sediment accumulation at the bottom, and also Sherman Lake Channel, which is highly impaired for organic sediment, weed growth, and multiple other water quality issues. Where you see the red lines, that is the position and location of the O2B2 shallow water aeration tubing. This design is more robust than prior efforts for aeration in this part of the lake, in that we're focusing more heavily on more impact on the channel, more impact along the shoreline, and more impact behind the island with the O2B2 tubing. The orange square diffusers in the bay are the same diffusers that had been employed in the lake previously, and they will be optimal for sustaining oxygen levels in the 6 to 12 or 6 to 11 foot depth range of that bay. Next slide. This just gives you equipment details of the material being used and redeployed, both in the channel and the bay system. I'm not sure I need to go into the nits and grits of the technical details. This detail has been provided to the SLRA, and it can certainly be made available following this meeting. Next slide, and I believe that's it.
Okay.
Yep, this is now for someone else.
Okay. Well, I am Dr. Jennifer Jermalowitz-Jones with Restorative Lake Sciences. And like Nancy was saying, I have been working with the SLRA for quite a long time. We've learned a lot over the last decade and a half about the way that Sherman Lake functions as an ecosystem. And one of the things that we found is that with the whole lake aeration system the way it was basically acting as a pump of the internal loading of the phosphorus that was at the deep basins towards the surface. And when that was occurring, we were not getting the significant reduction in the blue-green algal blooms that we would like. So what we opted to do is recommend that the aeration system be focused in the shallow areas where, for example, Illinois pondweed once was very dense, and now it's very hard to find actually in the lake overall. That plant is believed to have naturally declined as a function of the aeration system in the shallows, as well as aerating the canal and the area behind the island, because those areas need a lot more muck reduction and a lot more water movement. So we decided to shift gears a bit. We are still monitoring the bottom phosphorus in the deep basins to get an idea for how much it might be increasing. And if they continue to increase at the bottom, at the total phosphorus concentration, it continues to increase at the bottom of the deep basins, and we will then make recommendations for another approach down the road. But right now, our immediate concern is a couple things. One, reducing the milfoil, and I'll get into that in a second. And two, reducing the muck, also the cyanobacteria, which is obviously capable of producing harmful algal blooms and releasing toxins into the water. When we look at this EWM treatment map, remember that the aeration system originally was employed around 2013. So we had almost just shy of 60 acres back in 2011. And that's really what spurred this whole program, was that there was a large littoral zone treatment of invasive milfoil that basically resulted in the majority of the vegetation floating to the surface and not breaking down. So the question was, why isn't it breaking down? Well, we learned that the lake was deficient in oxygen beyond 10 feet, which is a significant amount of the lake volume. And this is the same kind of thing that we see, for example, as the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. When there's no oxygen, things can't break down at a steady rate, and you get all this accumulation. So our goal was to reduce the invasive milfoil, but not have that occur again, where even if we did have a year, like in 2021, for example, during COVID, because we weren't able to get on the lakes when we were supposed to because of the restrictions, that obviously had an impact on the amount of milfoil that was able to grow that particular year. But we've been able to keep the milfoil low. We are having it treated with systemic when possible. When money is tight, we obviously have had to resort to more contact herbicides. That is definitely not our preference. We do prefer to kill the root of the plant. But I think this graph says a lot because it does say that there has been a reduction since the program began. Now, is it perfectly possible to distinguish between herbicide effect and LFA effect on the milfoil? No, because they're covariates. Both of them are occurring at the same time. So I just wanted to point that out. We're definitely on the right track with controlling the invasive milfoil. Now, there are other invasives in the lake as well. Curly leaf pondweed, which tends to die off naturally by early July, so that one's not as much of a concern. And also starry stonewort, which is a concern. We're watching that very carefully as it's dominating certain areas of the channel, and it'll be interesting to see if that declines with the aeration increasing in the channel as well. Next slide. And another thing that we want to focus on is the change in the bottom sediment hardness. Now, if we look at the 2015 map on this slide, we see that there's a lot of gray color. And that gray color is very soft, loose, unconsolidated sediment. The darker orange colors are consolidated sediment. So we can clearly see that the aeration system, as it was, has led to consolidation of the sediments in most of the lake. That is certainly an ongoing goal because as these plants continue to be treated and grow and die, they are going to contribute organic matter to the sediment, and we are going to want to continue to see that decline. So that is another reason and rationale for the system. We will continue to monitor all of the parameters that we have in the past in the deep basins, just to look at whether we have internal loading occurring or continuing to occur, or if it's increasing. And we will also be monitoring the algal communities as well to see if we get any significant blue-green algal blooms. What we have learned with this particular type of technology is we cannot destratify the water column when we have internal loading. It works well for shallow systems with the mechanism of entrainment, but for deeper systems, and I'm talking anything deeper than 10 to 15 feet, which you do have basins in Sherman Lake that are much deeper than that, you are going to get movement of that higher phosphorus water at the bottom towards the middle and the upper layers. And that's what we're trying to avoid, because that's what's fueling the blue-green algal blooms. So that's why I recommended a shallow water system to basically increase reduction of muck in the very shallow areas. Let's stay on top of reduction of the Illinois pondweed, which was actually at a nuisance level back in 2015 for the majority of the lake, and right now is at 4% cover as recently as July during our recent survey. And also one of our other goals is to keep reducing the invasive species. So I am done. Thank you.
And I am back on. I apologize. I had my internet failed, but I am back if you want me to finish up quickly.
Yeah, feel free, Nancy.
All right, thank you so much. Well, like any program, our aeration programs is subject to change over time. And when changes occur, the budget must change as well. And I think that Jennifer and John both just touched on some of the changes. Current philosophy regarding aeration is different than it was when we first installed our system. EGLE no longer supports deep water aeration, and as a result, we've agreed to pull all the diffusers out of the deep water. During talks with EGLE, it became apparent that this is the only way to really secure a permit this year. And that means that there won't be any aerators in the North Bay or the southeast corner of the lake, because aerating the few shallow parts of those areas just isn't economically feasible. New technologies also develop over time. And due to improved technologies, both our limnologists and Everblue Lakes are recommending that we incorporate these new linear diffusers in the South Bay and in the channel. Those areas have a lot of muck, they're shallow, and that's where we find the highest concentration of invasive weeds. So I think that just sums up what both John and Jennifer just introduced. And I'm done.
All right, yeah, thank all three of you for presenting, John, Nancy, and Jennifer. We're gonna go right into the Q&A session. We have a little bit of time here for some questions in case anybody has any questions. There's 3 ways to do that. You can type in the Q&A box, which you see at the bottom of your screen. Just select that, type your question in, and send it to us. If you'd like to ask your question verbally and you're logged in, you can use the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. Just click that, and that'll raise your hand in Zoom. And we'll basically I'll call on you and then we'll unmute you and you can ask your question. If there's anybody on the phone tonight, you can raise your hand in Zoom by selecting #2. So just select #2 on your receiver, and then you'll be able to raise your hand. And the way this will work is I'll kind of go back and forth between the questions in the Q&A box and the people who have their hand raised to ask a question. So let me see here. Right. I've got one raised hand here. Carrie Lynn Elif, we're going to unmute you. And you're unmuted on our end. Just unmute yourself by selecting the microphone icon at the bottom of your screen, and then you'll be able to ask your question.
Okay, my question is just really quick. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so are there room for comments towards the end?
Yeah, so that would
Okay,
that would be,
okay, so I'll just I do have a couple questions. So and I will put this in the chat. Let me get to it really quick.
Oh, that's fine. You can just ask it verbally if you'd like, since we have you on.
Okay, so so in general, on the website, it talks about the objectives of aeration according to your website is improved water quality, decrease of organic substrate, and reduced growth of plants and algae, and also riparian rights. So so with this, is there an important matter for benefits of the lake? Is that anything that you're looking at? What is it that you are looking at, whether to grant the permit or not?
All right, so I think that's for Derek.
Yeah, is that for EGLE, Terry? You're asking that question for us, for EGLE?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll get into that when
Okay.
the criteria, when I get into the kind of the opening statement. But in general, it's weighing several factors, including impacts on the public trust, whether there's an impact on riparian rights, the environment, feasible, prudent alternatives, considering the uses of the waters. So those will be, we'll cover that when I kind of go through the formal opening statement of the hearing.
Okay.
Those are pulled right from part 301 in the Lakes Streams Act. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just so everybody's aware, just to clarify, so this portion right now is to ask questions. And then once we get through this portion, we're going to go on to the hearing part where everybody will be able to make a statement on this project. But so right now, if you have a question, you can type it in the Q&A box. Or you can raise your hand virtually. So thank you for your question, Carrie. I do have some questions in the Q&A box too. Why aren't the shallow waters by the Y-Camp, for example, being aerated? The area has typically had lots of milfoil.
So I believe this is part of the North Basin area where the diffusers and the tubing are proposed to be removed. So I don't know if Nancy, Jennifer want to speak to that to some degree. I believe that's the area that's being referred to.
Yeah, Nancy, Jennifer, or John, do you have anything you'd like to respond to related to that, or are able to?
I will just say that when we do a whole lake milfoil survey, or I should say invasive species survey or whole lake native vegetation survey, we do create polygon maps for treatment of any of the invasives. So if invasives are in that area and they need urgent treatment, we would recommend them for treatment. The only time we wouldn't do that is, if they were very close to the bottom and they weren't a threat for fragmentation or recreation. But typically we've had to do treatments in that area, but we have to be careful when they're obviously in the water or swimming.
Right. And I can address that as well. When I gave my introduction, I mentioned that it was not economically feasible because there are very few shallow areas in the North Basin. And we currently just have one large diffuser located at the Y camp. And we would have to run almost miles of tubing to reach the shallow areas around the lake. That compressor is too large just to aerate the Y camp. So we'd have to get a new compressor. We'd have to redo all of the tubing. And we also talked about the shelf is very narrow in the North Basin. It drops off rather quickly. So any aerators that were located in depths less than 12 feet would be right in the swim zone or right in the fishing zone, right by people's beaches.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Nancy. This next question is, I'm a believer in aeration to reduce muck. Why would we expect to get the benefits if we are only aerating a small portion of the lake?
Again, I can just say that from a feasibility study, we can only, and because of the new regulations, we're only aerating areas under 12 feet. And if you look at the topography of our lake, we're hitting the majority of that area.
All right, thank you for that question and the response. And I've got another one here that's kind of a two-part question, but it's related to the last question. So anyway, the question was related to aerating the deep water basins in the past has caused nutrients in the bottom to be mixed in the water column, which resulted in cloudy water and algal blooms, which greatly reduced the recreational use of the lake. Does EGLE have confidence that aerating the shallow waters will not cause any adverse effects? I think this one is of EGLE.
Yeah, I mean, whether EGLE has confidence, I guess what we will be reviewing is, I mean, what are the potential adverse effects of the aeration, whether it's the shallow water tubing, the shallow water, the diffusers. I would say we don't have a position of confidence or unconfidence, but in understanding what those potential adverse effects are, whether it's sediment resuspension or some of those things, that's certainly part of our review. So.
Eric, that's another question related to kind of the first part of this question was, the proposal is to add diffusion in the shallow waters, which do not naturally destratify. What's the benefit of increasing the dissolved oxygen if the water does not naturally destratify? Isn't there enough oxygen already at the bottom? Any thoughts on that one? It's stratification and available oxygen. I don't know if that would be best for us or for.
Yeah, Jennifer or John, Nancy,
Sure,
maybe speak to the dissolved oxygen levels as it relates to the purpose in the shallower waters.
There was in the shallower waters, even, there was oxygen depletion previously without the system, so that will help. But it was interesting because with the system even in the shallows, as you're basically progressing over from the access site and going around that peninsula, that's very shallow, but there was always a lot of stuff accumulating there. Initially it was Illinois pondweed, and then of course the milfoil moved in. But yes, those areas have been consistently aerated, and they've also been consistently consolidating as far as sediment goes. And the only way that really can occur, is with the increased oxygen in the biog that had been used in the past.
Have time for about one more question. And this is kind of a long build up, but there's some background. The aeration contractor, John Tucci, who owns Everblue Lakes, reported that the permit application that aeration has conservatively eliminated 200 acres of muck. Given that Sherman Lake has a surface area of about 175 acres, it means more than a foot of muck has been eliminated over the entire bottom of the lake. The claim was based on comparing a depth map from 1969 to a map to 2021. Additionally, reports by restorative lake scientists, including lake bottom hardness scans, have been represented as indication of muck reduction. And so here's the question. Does EGLE believe sufficient data has been reported to substantiate the 200 acres of muck have been eliminated?
Yeah, I would say we don't have a position. The muck reduction as it relates to, let's say, some of the previous aeration permits. It's not been something that's been required to be tracked or monitored or, reported on in terms of it's not part of the standard aeration monitoring conditions. So we don't have a position, on it. And similar on the follow-up question that if we believe that aeration reduces organic muck. I mean, EGLE does not have a position, whether we believe that or not. I mean, I think, obviously, like as you've heard, kind of folks talk about, that is what's presented in terms of one of the benefits. But EGLE, whether it's, as a department, or whether it's EGLE within the Kalamazoo district office, we have not formed, an opinion on either one of those things.
All right, thanks, Derek. Yeah, it's time in the evening. We're going to have to move on to the next part of tonight, which is the hearing portion. Thank you all for asking such great questions, and for the representatives for the applicant and Derek and Rachel for being part of the panel to answer those questions. But first I want to let you know, make sure you're aware there are other ways to submit an official comment before we get into taking comments tonight. You can submit comments through My Enviro, directly into My Enviro by accessing public hearing event under submission number HQ1 PXNK VCRV1. And there's a link there that we're going to put in the chat, or by mail to EGLE Water Resources Division, Kalamazoo District Office, 7953 Adobe Road, in Kalamazoo, Michigan, 49009. And so I'm just reading these off for anyone on the phone in case they aren't able to see it. And then the comment period after the hearing will be open for 10 days, which would put it at September 28th. I'll be accepting comments until that date. All right, so now we're going to move into the hearing part of tonight. This is where everybody will have an opportunity to make a comment. In order to do that, I'm going to invite Derek to read the opening statement that they talked about a little bit earlier.
Thanks, Ryan. All right, folks, bear with me. It's kind of a long template here, so, but here it goes. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Derek Carrollton, and I'm the District Supervisor for the Kalamazoo District Office of the Water Resources Division of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, or EGLE. I will be serving as the hearings officer for this public hearing on EGLE submission number HQ1 YPKB TB0R8. With me tonight is Rachel Kaufman, District Representative from the Kalamazoo District Office. To describe how this is going to work tonight, I will begin with some background information about why we are here. I will then describe the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I will outline the procedures under which we will take your comments and then describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. It will then be time for you to provide comments, and we will spend the majority of the time tonight listening to those comments. At the end of the hearing, I will read the closing statement. By way of background information, the Water Resources Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical sand dune area, wetland, or floodplain. The law governing those responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994, Public Act 451, as amended, or Act 451. We are here tonight because the Sherman Lake Residents Association has proposed the following: to remove the existing aeration system in the North Bay of Sherman Lake and remove and replace the existing system in the South Bay and channel of Sherman Lake. All existing diffusers and airline in the South Bay and channel will be removed. a total of approximately 19,002 linear feet of airline connected to 15 microporous diffusers and approximately 3,350 linear feet of aeration tubing will be placed on bottomlands within the South Bay and the Channel. All existing diffusers and airlines in the North Bay of Sherman Lake will be removed. In order for a permit to be granted, EGLE must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet certain criteria set by Part 301 Inland Lakes and Streams of Act 451. In general, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on Sherman Lake. When reviewing an application for a permit under the provisions of Part 301 Inland Lakes and Streams of Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following considerations as required by Section 30106 of Part 301. The department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely affect the public trust or riparian rights. In passing upon an application, the department shall consider the possible effects of the proposed action upon the inland lake or stream and upon waters from which or into which its waters flow, and the uses of all such waters, including uses for recreation, fish and wildlife, aesthetics, local government, agriculture, commerce, and industry. The department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any of the waters or other natural resources of the state. And then under the administrative rules for Part 301, Rule 281.814, EGLE is charged to make the following considerations. In each application for a permit, all existing and potential adverse environmental effects shall be determined, and the department shall not issue a permit unless the department determines both of the following. One, that the adverse impacts to the public trust, riparian rights, and the environment will be minimal, and two, that a feasible and prudent alternative is not available. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in the permit application an opportunity to provide information that EGLE can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that EGLE can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We will be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that EGLE is by law not allowed to base our decision on whether or not there is widespread support or opposition to the project. In just a moment, I will outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments. But before I do so, I need to mention that the notice of this hearing was published in the Sunday, August 31st edition of the Kalamazoo Gazette. As we discussed at the beginning of the informational session, if you have a comment to provide, raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow these steps. First, the applicant and their consultant was already been given an opportunity to describe the proposed project. Second, we will next call on those who have indicated in their registration that they would like to speak. After that, we will call on all those who raised their hand in the Zoom toolbar that they would like to make a comment if they haven't already been called upon. As a reminder, if you are participating in this hearing via telephone only, please follow the directions from Ryan on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to EGLE via the My Enviro portal, via email, or via US mail. When all the comments have been completed, we will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association you may represent. Each person will be given 4 minutes to make their comments. We will indicate to you when you have a minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within the allotted time. And then if need be, we'll indicate when your time has ended. I ask that we all be courteous and respectful to one another tonight. Please also recognize that EGLE staff is here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and to listen to those comments. As Ryan said before, the hearing is being recorded and your comments will be part of the information EGLE will consider in making its decision on whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. The public comment period for this public hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing, extending through September 28th, 2024. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day public comment period will also be considered in EGLE's decision. Following the close of the public comment period, EGLE will make a decision to either issue a permit for their project as proposed or with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You might find out what the decision is by checking the EGLE Mine Borough portal website and searching for the application number HQ1 YPKB TB0R8. Thank you again for your attention. We will now begin calling the names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement.
Yeah, thanks for reading that, Derek. Yeah, as Derek mentioned, we're going to start off with the people who during registration indicated they wanted to make a statement. I have 8 people on that list. And then we'll go to people who have their hand raised. And then if you are on the phone, you can select #2 to raise your hand at Zoom, and you'll be able to raise it that way. It'll be 1 comment per person, and everyone will have a chance to make a comment. If there's someone else on the line when you're giving your comment already, feel free to let me know that. If there's somebody else there who would like to make a comment with you, they'll have an opportunity in turn to make a comment as well. I do have a countdown timer. So when we unmute you and you begin your comment, you'll see the countdown timer at 4 minutes start to count down in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And then when you have 1 minute left, you'll hear a ding that sounds like this. So you'll know you'll have a minute left in your comment as a heads up. And so with that, I think we're ready to start. And so the first person on the list that I have is Tom Saad. So Tom, we are going to unmute you. Find Tom in the audience.
I got it. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, there you are.
Okay, this
All
is
right,
Tom
perfect.
Saad. I live on 6329 North 39th Street. I've been a resident of Sherman Lake since 2004. I'm an SLRA board member. I've been in the position of vice president, beach director, and chairperson of the SLRA Lake Management Committee. When we moved to the lake in 2004, PLM, or Professional Lake Management, was already applying herbicide treatments to our lake. We were seeing a steady increase in Eurasian milfoil and curly leaf pondweed despite the treatments. We were averaging about 3 treatments a year, sometimes more. And the weeds were developing resistance to the used herbicides, so they had to go to stronger agents to kill the weeds, and that, of course, cost more money. And despite that, the problem was just augmenting steadily. And the weeds became so thick that we could not really navigate a boat around the lake without having to stop once or twice around going around the lake to free up the propeller from the weeds which were jamming it up. You either had to put your engine in reverse or lean back and take the weeds off by hand. As mentioned earlier, the invasive weeds covered more than nearly 60 acres of our lake. So we then got involved with, did a lot of consultations, visits to other lakes, research, spent a lot of hours looking for alternatives to herbicide treatments. And we considered multiple strategies, which included harvesting, weevils, aeration, and we even did harvesting once. And the problem with that we could find no place to throw away the harvested weeds, because the farmers didn't want them because of the herbicide treatments, and we had a very difficult time getting rid of them. So in 2012, we did get aeration started, and there was a condition from EGLE at the time that we could not use any herbicides for the next 3 years. Because I want to see how aeration by itself worked. And we did see a dramatic decline in weed density as the milfoil, was being uprooted. So we did achieve quite a bit of success during those first few years. And then after that, we were using herbicides for spot treatments for the most part. I think Jennifer talked about that, and I'm not going to go over that again. The bottom line is that, herbicides create, the biggest problem with herbicides is that they create a lot of dead organic material, which turns to muck And it really makes the bottom of your lake, it kills the bottom of your lake. You have a lake bottom that is dead. There's no oxygen. There's no life down there. It's full of anaerobic bacteria. It stinks. I went to a lake, a friend of mine in a lake in Papa area. You walk in about 10 feet and you're in about a knee deep in muck. We don't want that here. So the herbicide kills the weeds, but it also, it doesn't differentiate between invasives and natives. It kills everything. And also damages the ecosystem. It's harmful to the lake. We used to see all kinds of dead fish floating on the lake back when we used a lot of herbicides. I can say that we have not seen that in a very long time. So the bottom line is aeration harmful to the lake? No. I can't, if anybody disagrees with me, they can say that. But is herbicide treatments harmful to the lake? Absolutely. We all know that. So the answer really is that we need multiple modalities to address this problem. And that includes sewer, drain remediation, aeration, limited use of herbicides. And most importantly, I think we all need to be good stewards to our lake. That includes not using fertilizers on our lawns, not bringing leaves close to the shorelines, drain remediation, et cetera. Those are all important things. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment, Tom. All right, next up is B. Scott Hutchings. Scott, looks like you're unmuted on our end. Feel free to unmute yourself again when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Scott Hutchings. I live at 11904 Yorkshire. And I've lived with my family on the channel since 2002. I've been the past ICA Association president, the Island Cove Acres Association president, currently on the SLRA board representing the ICA Beach Director position. I want to talk a little bit about aeration, and I am for aeration, and a little bit of testimony for EGLE to hear at least my side of a muck reduction that we've experienced on the channel. But I have firsthand witnessed the water quality improvements on our lake and channel with the installation of aeration. Our channel was dying rapidly between 2002 and 2010, and probably even before that. There were portions of the lake where, as Tom mentioned, the boats could not navigate through because of the height and the volume of the weeds. By June of every summer, the actual water was not visible in the channel. You could not see it, choked out by duckweed and other invasive weeds. The smell of decaying plant materials was offensive and an embarrassment to owning lake property. During the spring, the water became considerably cloudy and the bottom was not even visible. I was part of a small group of residents in the ICA platted properties that decided to do something about it. We did the research, put some funds together, decided to select aeration over chemical treatment. We were awarded the permit to place aeration right around 2007 in the channel. It took a few years of the operation to start seeing a difference. Instead of the whole channel engulfed in duckweed, it became closer to 2/3 closed off, and then about 1/3 and to very minimal amounts. The benefits we experienced: significant muck reduction, improved water quality, fewer weeds, less chemical treatments, and we were able to see the gravel bottom. We didn't even know we had a gravel bottom. I have previously provided before, during, and after pictures to EGLE during this time frame. The aeration being off this past year has not benefited the channel or the lake in my estimation, as we have had to rely on chemical treatments. My belief has always been that the health of the lake and the channel go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. The three people that are opposed to aeration and a few select others have their own agenda. These are the same individuals publicly on record that opposed the sewer hookup, which EGLE and everyone knows that this is the best thing for a lake, and it's state law for a reason. I hold each of them responsible for the degradation of this lake and channel. These individuals don't participate openly during meetings, rarely turn on their cameras, and record conversations without prior permission. The opportunity to participate has been welcomed and made available. They choose to complain and not get involved. I do want to go on record to address the letter that Mark Rogers constructed on 9/11/24, stating that I was a conflict of interest for me to be on the SLRA board since my wife was township supervisor. Simply put, I was for aeration 15+ years ago. I'm still for aeration today. So that is, there's no conflict of interest there. I look forward to EGLE making a swift determination to approve this permit, and I thank you for the opportunity to make my comments tonight.
Next up is Pam Mosley. Pam, we're gonna find you up. Looks like you're unmuted. You can unmute your mic and begin your comment when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Pam Mosley. I live at 6116 West Sherman Lake Drive. I want to speak to the character and commitment of the Sherman Lake Residents Association and that of those few who have inundated you with complaints. Sherman Lake is a complex biological ecosystem. The SLRA has researched and contracted with professionals to address the biology of this ecosystem in a scientific manner. And you have all of the reports from our limnologist. I want to quote from Mr. Dale Carnegie in his principles from How to Win Friends and Influence People. Principle number 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. There are a handful of residents who criticize, condemn, and complain with mostly personal opinions and observations. I have not seen any scientific evidence to back up their claims. I am happy to hear that in considering the future treatment of this beautiful body of water, you consider science. My husband and I have raised our 2 children at this residence and have lived here for 38 years. The SLRA has been a volunteer organization since well before we moved here. It has been optional to join with a nominal membership fee, which has not changed over the years. The dues cover license fees, liability insurance, office supplies, and social events, which are open to all residents and designed to promote a fraternal spirit. The invitation has always been offered to all residents to join in so that the association can get input from all residents. There have always been residents who are interested in what's happening in and around the lake, but never want to get involved, and that's okay. Most of these residents are happy with the way the SLRA is run. Correspondence over the years has evolved from delivering flyers and postal mailings to the present day where we email most correspondence. Each beach has a director who keeps the residents in their area informed and also keeps their address up to date so they can get correspondence. Every time there is a meeting, the lake quality meeting or board meeting, an email goes out to every resident. There are no secret meetings and residents invited to attend each meeting. There's a time for public comments. The SLRA has always been made up of honest residents who care enough about the lake and their neighbors to spend the time in making Sherman Lake the best it can possibly be. We hold democratic elections every spring according to our bylaws, and we have absolutely no reason to have secret meetings, and we are not trying to mislead residents or pull anything over on anyone. We are simply trying to keep our lake healthy. In addition to announcements of upcoming meetings, several emails are sent out each year with updates and opportunities to get involved. We encourage any resident to also be part of the solution. In conclusion, with full engagement of all residents, they would see that we are, with full engagement of all the residents, they would see that we are open, transparent, and working for the good of the lake and all of the residents. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for your comments, Pam. All right. Next up is Alisar Naj Langworthy. Oh, yep, you're unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
Hello?
You can begin when you're ready.
Okay. Yes, my name is Alisar Naj Langworthy. I live on the East Beach, 6417 North 39th Street. My family and I moved here in 2004. And I remember how tough it was to even keep swimming past, I don't know, mid-July, as a lot of the pond weed and milfoil. Pondweed was choking up the beach. We never knew we had a sandy beach until the aeration system started taking effect. That was the best thing that has happened to our lake. The water was extremely healthy. There was always like a weird odor in the water when we first moved here. That was gone. I've been seeing it recently. I've been smelling it recently, and also those weeds are returning to our beach. We no longer have a sandy beach. That sandy beach came in after the aeration system was in place for a few years. Now, all the pondweed is growing right back. The milfoil, there's this carpet of yucky green muck now. It's disgusting to go swim in that water. And it breaks my heart to see that it has there's a reversal only because the aeration system was turned off. I totally support renewing our permit, please. And I totally support wherever you can find a place to aerate, to keep doing that. We need that. This lake never looked better. And now it's starting to deteriorate right before our eyes. It is so unfair how this is happening. I wish to echo Pam Mosley's praise of our SLRA. We are, all the residents, constantly informed and invited to participate and attend meetings with various scientific specialists regarding the health of our lake. There is no excuse for anybody to pretend ignorance. We have been informed. We are always informed. And this was not done by fly of the night. This was all researched and logged, and we all got to vote on it. I really am sad to see where we are today, and I hope that you will listen to us and reinstate the aeration system and keep going to bring the water back, please. Thank you for listening to me.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. Right. Next up is Roger Schweitzer. So Roger, you're unmuted on our end. You can begin when you're ready after you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Roger Schweitzer. I live at 12316 North Sherman Lake Drive. I've been a past president of the SLRA and have been really heavily involved with the lake ever since we moved onto the lake 47 years ago. In the late 1990s, we did notice a new invasive weed, first noticed at the public access. And I think we're primarily concentrating on Eurasian milfoil to begin with. It spread quickly around the lake. And personally in our dock, it was so thick, the only way to leave our dock was to reverse forward, inch our way out into the deeper water where the milfoil was not high enough. And so we started looking and investigating solutions that was mentioned before: harvesting, dredging, milfoil, weevils, and chemical herbicides. Those were really the only options that were available at the time, and the chemical herbicides were the only affordable option that we could afford. And it got to the point where we treated up to 57 acres of our lake. And yes, the herbicides they did kill the Eurasian milfoil, but they killed also native aquatic vegetation, which all of this fell to the bottom, decomposed, and increasing annual layers of nutrient-rich lake bottom organic sediment, which is the perfect fertilizer for the next year's expanding crop of Eurasian milfoil. Natural aeration was investigated and implemented in 2013, and over the following years, the lake bottom organic sediment started metabolization and decline, along with the Eurasian milfoil, and herbicides were used primarily for spot treatments. Our swim area during the worst time was just so mucky that our kids would not even swim it anymore. After aeration, this muck did disappear. We have a sandy bottom again, and looking at the restorative lake management organic sediment bottom really proves that aeration does metabolize and reduce the muck. So I highly recommend the approval of the proposed aeration permit renewal, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Sorry, go ahead, Roger. You have had a minute left, or yeah, a minute left. Did you have anything further? No, I guess not. I think Roger was wrapping up. Thanks for the comment, Roger. All right, next up is Mark Rogers. All right, there, Mark. Looks like you're unmuted on our end. You just need to unmute your.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. I've decided I'm going to issue some comments after this meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next up is Carolyn Alif. Carrie Lynn, looks like you're unmuted. You can begin your comments when you're ready.
Thank you. I just want to come on to share a few things. Aerators disrupt the stratification of our lake. Our lake has stratification, or layers of aquatic life, due to the temperature changes in our lake. When the aerators go to the bottom and come up, if you swim over those aerators, you feel it very cold. So it's very much disrupting aquatic life in the lake. One of the objectives that EGLE looks at in deciding whether or not to grant a permit is, will it improve water quality? Well, in June 6th, 2022, our clarity of water was at 10 feet. June 6, 2023, it was at 13.5 feet. And June 8th, 2024, it was at 15 feet. June 15th of 22, it was at 12 feet. June 15th of 23, it was at 15.5 feet. And June 15th of 2024, it was at 15 feet. If you've gone back to the channel, it looks wonderful. Now you can see the bottom and it's completely clear. As to the smell of the channel, when you kill off duckweed, it will have a smell of death. That is something that is known. Because of the changing of the stratification, there could most likely be a negative effect, even if it's unintentional, with bringing back aerators. The water quality could compromise back to less of a water quality as far as being able to see. And there are other successful applications being given by companies that are less invasive. My friend on Wall Lake told me that Professional Lake Management treats their milfoil and has for years, and the milfoil is very much under control. So there is prudent alternatives out there other than aeration. Indian Lake and Austin Lake also have stopped aeration, and they have gone with other companies that, again, provide prudent alternatives. To bring back the aeration would be a violation of the residents' riparian rights on Sherman Lake, because it would diminish the quality of the water. As far as the sandy beach on East Sherman Lake shore, it is wonderful. My husband and I were swimming, and my daughter were swimming almost every day in training for the Shermanator. My husband still swims. We have a nice sandy bottom. In the last 2 years, we have not had the green slime on our beach. So I am asking that you do not permit the permit for the aerators, that you protect our riparian rights. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, this is the last name on my list of people who during registration indicated they want to make a comment. So after Tom Boyd, we're going to go to the raised hands. So if you have not made a comment yet and you would like to make a comment, just raise your hand in Zoom by selecting the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. If you're on the phone, you can select #2, and that will raise your hand in Zoom, and we'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number. So with that, Tom Boyd, looks like you're unmuted. You can begin your comment when you're ready.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. My name is Tom Boyd. My address is 12232 North Sherman Lake Drive. Members of my family have lived on Sherman Lake for more than 100 years. So we do understand riparian rights. It absolutely blows my mind when I hear people claim victory in the belief that simply turning off the aerators has miraculously healed our lake and is the sole reason behind water clarity levels that we've seen this summer. Prior to aeration, we had 1 year that required 6 herbicide treatments in a single season. During the first 3 years we operated aerators, we administered 0 herbicides. Since that time, we've administered 1 herbicide treatment along with a late summer spot treatment if necessary on an annual basis. This year, with the aerators turned off, we had no choice but to administer 2 large-scale herbicide treatments and 1 spot treatment as Eurasian milfoil and curly leaf pondweed have begun to make a comeback. In addition, during the past 24 months, we've completed 4 major drain remediation projects as part of the SAD and approximately 80 homes connected to the public sewer. Let us take a moment and speak about the importance and positive impact of the sewer hookups. The water industry, of which Derek, you'll understand this, estimates that one individual uses approximately 3,000 gallons of water per month. 3,000 gallons times 4 people times 80 homes times 12 months is 11,520,000 gallons of water per year that were flowing into septic tanks, drain fields, our drinking water, and eventually into the lake during these previous years until the past 18 months. Talking about damaging riparian rights, the people that were dumping sewage into the lake, I think, had a little bit more impact than some aeration adding oxygen. So please help me understand. Do the naysayers honestly believe that dumping even more herbicides and chemicals into the lake in order to kill weeds is the right answer versus pumping in some oxygen? Do they truly believe that the elimination of more than 11.5 million gallons of wastewater and sewage draining into our lake and drinking water on an annual basis had 0 impact on water clarity and quality until now? Do they believe that aeration has had absolutely no positive impact over the years? And in fact, I've heard 1 or 2 people say they thought it had a negative impact. Really? Wow. You know, the SLRA has done nothing but promote positive relationships, and they continue to explore new and innovative ways to maintain the health and beauty of Sherman Lake. Aeration is one of the several critical tools that we need to do so. So let's get with the program. Appreciate your support. Thank you for giving me the time to talk.
Thanks for your comment. All right, so as far as raised hands, we have Donna Piercini. Donna, we are going to unmute you, and you can mute yourself and make your comment. You there, Donna?
How about,
how
about now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Actually, I raised my hand way back during the initial statements. After Derek said that, my understanding of what he said was that EGLE doesn't, it sounded like EGLE didn't have a position on what did and what didn't affect the lake. And I raised my hand because I'm like, why not? I would think that EGLE would have a lot of resources and a lot of data to back up what is and what isn't good with the lake. Is that not true?
So Donna, we're taking statements right now. Yeah, I understand that we had to cut the Q&A session short. So so what we can do is we're going to provide Derek's contact information at the end. So Derek can be contacted afterwards, after the hearing tonight.
Okay, so that was why I had my hand raised for that, not for this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Brandon Pierce. All right, Brandon, you are unmuted on our end. Right there?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Great. I am at, I'm Brandon Pierce. I am at 11938 Yorkshire. Yeah, well, just listening to some of the comments out there, I can tell you that, you know, when Carrie said that, you know, she could see the bottom of the channel, I live in the channel, and that is not happening. I haven't seen it since the day I lived here. I moved in here in 2017, and I have yet to see the bottom of that channel. My beach has been increased, and I agree with Scott Hutchinson. We can see the, you know, the gravel, which is great, but we need much, much more improvement. My wife is the current president of the Island Cove Acres Association. So he is not able to make it here today, so I just wanted to reach out and, you know, give a quick statement for her. And she reads, while the lake may have some improved water quality over this spring and summer due to more than one reason, the channel has seen an increase, you know, has not seen an increase in, and has best stayed the same or have gotten worse. We have had to do additional treatments, of course, just to keep it clear. When we've been live on, you know, lake our entire life, we have seen just about every lake treatment you could imagine, including chemical and, you know, dredging. I do give my full support to continue the aeration treatments that benefit the lake and channel and other spots of this lake.
Any other comments, Brandon, or are you set?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right, yeah, thanks for making your comments. All right, next up, Matthew Els. So Matthew, you're unmuted on our end. You can unmute your mic and begin when you're ready.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. So I just want to make a couple of brief points. One, I'm a believer in aeration. I felt like I experienced on our beach. We're at 12187 North Sherman Lake Drive. You know, the muck, the first few years of the aeration, the muck receded from the shoreline out quite a ways. So I'm a believer that it works. However, we're not proposing to turn back on the system that we had then. You know, I think from a mixing of oxygen in the water and decomposing at the bottom, you know, most of the muck is in areas that are not going to be aerated. And so while I'm a believer in aeration, I think there, you know, the plus side is that it reduces the muck in my mind. And the downside is that it mixes the phosphorus into the water, and we get terrible algae blooms, which, you know, most of the people that have made positive comments on aeration have not acknowledged that in their comments. And I think that's the reason why the proposal is to take out the deep water aeration. So my point is this. what we are being asked to, approve or and pay for through the SAD is not the aeration that we've had in the past. It's a very, it's a system that, being in the shallow water, I don't know, but I don't think it would work as well as the deep water ones from a muck reduction standpoint. Maybe make up for that by the, the tubes and the, the multiple aeration heads, but you're only treating, 20-30% of the lake. And everybody on the rest of the lake is paying for it. And if, and then what happens to the muck in the rest of the lake? If, if we're only treating 20% of it, we're not, or 20 or 30%, I don't know how much of the shoreline is actually taken up by it. But I don't think we're, I just don't think it's a good solution from a feasibility standpoint. Even if you love aeration and you think it's a good solution for the muck, it's not treating the whole lake, and it's not going to address the issue that it's been addressing over the years. So that's my comment.
Is there anybody who has not made a comment yet who would still like to make a comment? And again, you can do so by raising your hand in Zoom at the bottom of your screen. If you're on the phone, you can select #2 on your receiver, and we'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number. So we'll give it a couple seconds, and if there isn't anyone else who would like to make a comment, what we'll do is we'll go through those other ways to make a comment in case you didn't want to make one tonight, so that you have those again. And then we'll provide Derek's contact information in case we didn't get to your question, or if you have any follow-up questions, you can contact Derek. And then we'll wrap up. So I'm still not seeing any other raised hands, and so, oh, there's one. John Blakely, would you like to make a comment? We're unmuting you, and then if so, you can begin when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, well, I'll follow up with whatever Matt said. I just listened to him say that aeration works on muck, and I agree with him completely. It speaks to one thing that kind of concerns me, is that we're not thinking holistically in terms of the entire lake, but we're removing all the aerators from the, well, anyway, that's a side issue. We're talking about the permit, but at the cost, if we ever have to go back to putting aerators back in the full lake, it's going to cost us a huge amount of money that I don't know that everybody's willing to put up. And anyway, long term, anyway, the reduction of the muck makes sense to me. The hardened bottom, less likely to have the invasive species grow, whatever. I'm obviously in favor of aeration because I saw the same things that he saw. And so, okay, I grant you that it's the muckiest part of the lake, but it's a singular lake, and we've got to do what we can afford to do, and it makes sense to deal with the muckiest part. So I hope for sure that you'll do the aeration thing, but I guess that's up to you and how things go. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thanks for your comment, John. All right. Nancy Boyd. Nancy, we'll unmute you, and then you can make a comment if you'd like.
All right, great. John Crum, who is the director of the Gull Lake Sewer and Water Authority, was supposed to be here tonight, but he had a conflict. But he did send me a letter that I'd like to read. And it goes like this. Dear Sherman Lake residents, Gull Lake Sewer and Water Authority is pleased to provide the Sherman Lake residents with the following update on the voluntary SAD project for the mandatory sewer connection on Sherman Lake. There were 70 parcels representing 73 connections committed to the voluntary SAD program. As of September 1st, 2023, all 73 connections have been completed. Of the 16 parcels that did not participate in the SAD program, 3 property owners connected by December 31st, 2023. 1 parcel demolished the home, and that leaves 12 parcels out of compliance. And currently, we await the court system to enforce that. One step that assists the Sherman Lake Association with maintaining a healthy lake is the utilization of public sewers over private septic systems. During the voluntary SAD project, it became clear that most residents of the lake did not know where their septic systems were even located. The actual location of tanks and dry wells became educational opportunities. It also supports the concept that what is out of sight is also out of mind. This allows me to confidently state routine maintenance was not occurring. And that's the septic system's design functionality was not performing as designed. The disassembly of a deck to access a tank confirmed that that tank hadn't been pumped during the 20 years that the deck was in place. That's just one account to support the findings stated above. The absence of inlets and outlets in the lake, like Sherman Lake, supports the need for additional means to maintain lake health. Aeration coupled with phosphorus removal from septic tank removal is one additional means of support. Respectively, John Crum, Executive Director, Gull Lake Sewer and Water Authority. And I think that his letter supports that we've had a great season in 2024. Our lake clarity is impressive. And I hear people say that was because the aerators are off. Let's not discount John's letter and the fact that not only did we remove these septic systems, but these septic systems were not functioning properly. They hadn't been pumped in over 20 years. And that in itself is a reason for improved water quality this year. Thank you.
Thanks for the comment, Nancy. Is there anybody else who has not made a comment yet who would like to make one tonight? Yeah, we'll give it a couple seconds and we'll go on to the other ways to submit a comment in case we don't have, in case you want to submit one afterwards or to supplement your comment or to provide additional information or in case you didn't want to make one tonight. All right, so I'm not seeing any other raised hands. So Derek, would you want to read the closing statement for us tonight?
Yep, absolutely. As soon as I find it again. Okay. Thank you all for your comments, cooperation tonight. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you may submit additional written comments through September 28th, 2024. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments can be submitted via the MindBorrow portal at the link here that Ryan's showing, and I believe is in the chat, via email to myself or via US mail to the district office here. With that, the hearing is now closed. Thanks again for coming.
Yeah, thanks for reading that, Derek. Yeah, I just want to reiterate those other ways to submit a comment that Derek just mentioned. So you have another opportunity to submit if you'd like. I'm going to read some of this off for the people who are on the phone. Submission HQ1 PXNK VCRB1 by mail to EGLE Water Resources Division, Kalamazoo District Office, 7953 Adobe Road, and that's ADOBE, Kalamazoo, Michigan, 49009. And like Derek mentioned, the comment period will be open until September 28th, 2024. All right. And as promised, here's Derek's contact information in case you have any follow-up questions. Derek can be reached at 269-569-3609 or at haroldson@michigan.gov or HAROLDSOND@mi.gov or MICHIGAN.gov. So with that, any closing comments for us tonight, Derek?
I just appreciate that everybody took the time to attend we're all busy, and to take a few hours out of an evening, I know sometimes can be difficult, but I appreciate everybody who attended, all those who spoke, all those who just listened in. Thanks again for coming. I appreciate the civil discourse and everybody's appropriate kind of level of behavior. So thanks again. We look forward to contacting me if you have additional comments, if you had questions that we didn't quite get to. We'll close with that.
All right, thanks Derek and Rachel for being here, and for all of you for being here as well. Last thing I'll just say is just a reminder that this hearing was recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel in a couple days, so you can look out for it then. With that, hope you all have a great rest of your evening, and good night.